Makoto Jones stood at the door to my study, nervously wringing his hands. "Mr. Clark, could I possibly get this month's student aid payment in advance?" He avoided my gaze, all of his usual silver-tongued charm, the kind he used around my wife, Victoria Hawthorne, completely gone. I grunted in acknowledgement without looking up. He was a poor student from Victoria's hometown. His family was genuinely struggling, but he was sharp, having been accepted into the university's School of Economics. At first, I was just lending a hand, giving him $5,000 a month. Later, Victoria's concern for him seemed a bit excessive. She was always saying we should take extra care of people from back home. I didn't think much of it. The company had been taking up more of my time these past few years, and I admittedly hadn't been home as much, until that night. I came home early, pushed open the bedroom door, and the scene that greeted me was a knife straight through the heart. The two of them were tangled together on the marital bed I shared with Victoria. I didn't make a sound. I backed out quietly, returned to my car, and lit a cigarette. My hands were shaking violently. Pain, rage, and an indescribable sense of humiliation threatened to drown me. But I didn't lose control. I didn't go insane. An unprecedented wave of cold, hard reason quickly took over. I pulled out my phone and sent a message to my assistant, Leo Miller. "Dig up everything you can on Makoto Jones. The more detailed, the better." Putting my phone down, I stared into the pitch-black night outside and twisted my lips into a chilling smile. "Makoto Jones, Victoria Hawthorne. Since you chose betrayal, you'd better be prepared to pay the price." Late that night, I returned home, forcing myself to act as if nothing had happened. Victoria didn't notice a thing. She still wore the mask of a doting wife. "You're back so late, you must be hungry. I'll go heat up some food for you." As she walked toward the kitchen, I watched her back, a terrifying stillness settling over me. 3 hours ago, this woman was fooling around with another man in our bed, and now she could talk to me about dinner so naturally. My voice was ice. "No need. I saw everything." Her body went rigid. She froze. You saw what?" She turned around, her voice trembling uncontrollably. "You and Makoto Jones." "On our bed," I said, my calmness unnerving. Her face went deathly pale. She swayed, stumbled backward, and collapsed onto the sofa. "Sincere, I can explain." I cut her off. "Explain? Explain how you went behind my back and slept with the broke student I was sponsoring?" Tears streamed down her face, a truly pathetic sight. "No, it's not what you think. He tricked me. He said he just wanted to get to know you better, to learn about you from me, and then... I stared at her. "Then you willingly let him screw you." She couldn't form a coherent sentence, the tears falling ceaselessly. "Sincere, forgive me. I was wrong. It was just a moment of weakness." I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Victoria, do you remember our wedding vows? For better or for worse, till death do us part. But you betrayed that. Since that's the case, it's time we got a divorce." "No," she lunged forward, clinging desperately to my leg. "Sincere, please, just give me one more chance. I was wrong. I was so wrong." I looked down at her, this woman I once cherished, now begging me so humbly. I pried her fingers off me one by one. "You've already used up your chance." Leo's investigation report was on my desk soon after. Makoto's family was indeed poor, but he was far from clean. In his sophomore year, he had plagiarized an unpublished paper from a foreign professor, and had gotten lucky the university didn't catch him. There was also strong suspicion he had cheated on several key exams. What was more disgusting was that Victoria wasn't his only target. He had tried to get close to several other wealthy female students at the university using similar tactics, but they had been more cautious and hadn't fallen for it. A classic opportunist, using his status as a poor student to gain sympathy and climb the social ladder. I snorted as I closed the report. A plan was slowly forming in my mind. I picked up the phone. "Leo, I need 2 things done. First, find a talented actress. Young, beautiful, someone who can convincingly play a wealthy heiress. Second, get me a new identity, one connected to a certain underground organization." Leo paused for a moment on the other end, but asked no questions. "Understood, Mr. Clark." After hanging up, I turned on my computer, typed in a complex password, and opened an encrypted folder. It contained a part of my past, from my early days starting out. To survive, to grow, I had to deal with people from the gray areas of society. Although I had since gone legit, and my business was on the right track, I had carefully maintained those connections. Perhaps it was time to use them again. Right now, I needed a plan that would make Makoto Jones and Victoria Hawthorne pay a terrible price. Not a simple divorce and public shaming, but a complete and utter destruction, from their spirits to their bodies. I wanted them to taste the bitterness of betrayal, to learn that some people you just can't afford to cross, and that sometimes the price of betrayal is your life. The next day, I met with my lawyer and began the divorce proceedings. Victoria called me countless times. I didn't answer once. She then came to my office, only to be stopped by security at the entrance. In the end, she could only stand dejectedly in the rain outside the company building, waiting. The rain soaked her clothes and ruined her carefully applied makeup, making her look pathetic. I walked right past her, not even bothering to glance in her direction. "Sincere, please give me one more chance," she cried, lunging to grab my arm. Security reacted quickly, pulling her away. "Mr. Clark, do you need us to—" "No," I said, casting a cold glance at Victoria. "She's not worth the effort." In that moment, I saw the look in her eyes shift from pleading to despair and finally to deep-seated hatred. Excellent. That's what I wanted to see. Let her hate me. The more she hated me, the better. Only when pushed to the brink of hatred do people lose their minds and do foolish things, and I was just waiting for her to jump into the pit I had dug. That evening, Vivian Sterling contacted me. She was the actress Leo had found. Her mission, to play a wealthy heiress and get close to Makoto Jones. "Mr. Clark, I'm ready," she said, her voice crisp and full of a professional actor's confidence. "Remember your character," I reminded her. "A rich girl who's lukewarm towards him. Make him feel like landing you is his ticket to the top. But, and this is crucial, never let him actually get what he wants. I want to lure him into a trap, not let that scumbag succeed." "Understood," Vivian said. She was a smart woman. "What happens after that?" "You don't need to know what happens next." My tone remained cold. "Just play your part." In the days that followed, I received daily progress reports from Vivian. She had successfully gotten close to Makoto and had him wrapped around her finger. He even began to deliberately distance himself from Victoria, focusing all his energy on pursuing Vivian. Victoria was in a full-blown panic. She called and messaged Makoto constantly, but he was dismissive, only humoring her when he needed money. The irony was bitter. The two people who had betrayed me together were now turning on each other, one about to be dumped, the other stepping deeper into the trap I'd set. I watched it all unfold with cold detachment, feeling nothing, just patiently waiting for the moment to spring the trap. 2 months later, I got a call from Leo. "Mr. Clark, the identity for the underground organization is ready. Everything is settled with the Grey Wolf Associates. It's ready to use whenever you are." "Good," I nodded. "Also, I need you to look into Makoto Jones's parents. Find out about all his relatives, where they are now. I want a thorough report." Leo hesitated for a second, but ultimately agreed. "Understood, sir." Vivian's side of the operation was also proceeding smoothly. Makoto was completely caught in her web of feigned affection, dreaming of using her connections to enter high society. To impress her, he started spending extravagantly, buying designer clothes, booking reservations at high-end restaurants, and even secretly ordering a rather expensive diamond ring. It looked like he was planning to propose. Where did he get the money? A small portion came from the student aid I'd given him, but most of it was from Victoria. Victoria had completely lost it by now. Our divorce was about to be finalized, and she would soon have nothing. Her only hope, her supposed lifeline, Makoto, was growing colder by the day. She started transferring money into his account with near manic desperation, trying to buy back his attention. It was both laughable and tragic. Watching this farce escalate, I felt only numbness. There was a time I loved Victoria Hawthorne desperately. Her smile, her frown, every little thing could move my heart. But now, in my eyes, she was nothing more than a sinner awaiting final judgment. Vivian sent me an audio recording of a private conversation between her and Makoto. "Is that hometown girl of yours, Victoria, still clinging to you?" Vivian's voice asked. "God, she's so annoying. All she does is cry," Makoto replied, his tone dripping with contempt. "But she's useful for now. Her husband is divorcing her, right? She's terrified of being broke, so if I sweet-talk her a little, she wires money right over. Aren't you afraid her husband will find out? I hear that Mr. Clark is a pretty powerful man." "Sincere Clark? You mean that old fuddy-duddy?" Makoto scoffed. All he knows is how to make money. He has no idea his wife is cheating on him. Once I graduate and have your father's connections, he'll be nothing." I turned off the recording, my expression turning even colder. "Excellent. Makoto Jones, your days of arrogance are numbered." Victoria showed up at my company building again, waiting in the pouring rain all day. She had lost a significant amount of weight and looked utterly haggard. As I walked out of the building, she stumbled towards me, but security immediately blocked her path. "Sincere, I'm begging you," she screamed, her voice hoarse. "Can we please just talk? I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong." I stopped and looked at her. Seeing my pause, the guards relaxed their grip. She ran up to me, reaching out to grab my sleeve but hesitating at the last second, not daring to touch me. "Sincere, can you please give me one more chance? I regret it so much. I truly do." Rain mixed with tears streamed down her gaunt face. The once beautiful Victoria Hawthorne was now a complete mess. I looked at her, my heart still a calm, flat sea. "Victoria, you chose Makoto not because you loved him, but because you were greedy. Now that he's dumped you, you come crawling back to me. That's not love either. It's fear. You're afraid of losing this comfortable life, afraid of going back to having nothing." She flinched, unable to meet my eyes. "No, that's not it. I really do regret it." "Regret?" I laughed coldly. "Do you regret getting caught, or do you regret that Makoto dumped you so quickly?" She was speechless, able only to cry more pitifully. "Sincere, you once said you would love me for a lifetime. That's because I once thought you were worthy of that love." I pulled a document from my inner jacket pocket and held it out to her. "This is the divorce agreement. Sign it and I'll give you $2 million. Enough for you to start over. If you don't, you'll walk away with nothing, not a single penny." Her hands trembled as she took the papers, her expression one of utter despair. "Sincere, is this really your final decision?" "This isn't my decision, it's the result of your own choices." I turned and walked toward my car, not looking back as her hysterical sobs echoed behind me. Back in the car, I immediately called Leo. "It's time for the final step. On graduation day, I want everyone to see what retribution looks like." The final step of the plan required special measures. I contacted the head of the Grey Wolf organization, a man known as Black Hand. He had helped me in my most difficult times. After I went legit and cleaned up my identity, he remained in that underground world. "Old friend. It's been a long time," his signature raspy voice came through the phone. "I hear you're in need of some special services." I briefly explained what I needed. He was silent for a moment on the other end. "This isn't a small matter. It seems whoever crossed you doesn't value their life." "They should have had that realization when they chose to betray me," I said, my voice devoid of any emotion. Blackhand didn't ask any more questions. "Fine. Someone will contact you." After hanging up, I felt a sense of calm I hadn't experienced in a long time. The final piece of the puzzle was in place. Now all I had to do was wait for that highly anticipated graduation ceremony for the public takedown that would cast Makoto Jones and Victoria Hawthorne into the depths of hell. I looked one last time at a photo Vivian had sent. In it, Makoto had his arm triumphantly around her, his face filled with greed and calculation. He probably thought his future was a brilliant, shining path, little knowing that a bottomless abyss awaited him. I clicked on another photo. The background was the dilapidated building where Makoto's family lived. Victoria was standing alone downstairs, her expression desolate and empty. Apparently, she had waited there all day, but Makoto never showed. I turned off my phone and looked out the window. The moonlight sketched the city's nocturnal silhouette. Everything was quiet, the calm before the storm. Makoto Jones. Victoria Hawthorne. Your nightmare is about to begin. The graduation ceremony at S University took place as scheduled. It was a clear, sunny day, and the campus was bustling with people. As one of the university's main donors, I was invited as a special guest and seated in a prominent position on the stage. Makoto Jones, dressed in a brand new graduation gown, looked smug. As the outstanding graduate representative for the School of Economics, he was the first to go on stage to receive his diploma. What he didn't notice was that Victoria was also there, sitting alone in an inconspicuous corner of the auditorium. Her face was gaunt, but her eyes were fixed on him with a morbid obsession. The ceremony began. The president gave a speech, followed by the deans of various departments. Finally, it was time to award the diplomas. The MC announced in a booming voice, "And now, Please welcome the outstanding graduate representative of the School of Economics, Makoto Jones, to the stage. Makoto straightened his gown and strode confidently to the center of the stage. The spotlight shone on him, making him look dashing and successful. But just as he was about to take the diploma from the president's hands, the MC's voice suddenly changed. Please wait a moment. Before we officially present the diploma, we have an important announcement. The university recently received a formal complaint with verified evidence regarding student Makoto Jones. During his time at the university, graduating student Makoto Jones engaged in serious academic misconduct, including plagiarism and cheating on exams. In accordance with university regulations, it has been decided to revoke his title of outstanding graduate and to withhold his degree certificate. The announcement sent a shockwave through the hall. Makoto froze on stage as if struck by lightning, his face instantly draining of all color. I watched him, a cold sneer on my lips. This is just the beginning. The next moment, the large screens on either side of the auditorium flickered to life. They began playing explicit videos of Makoto and Victoria. Immediately after, it cut to the audio recording of Makoto's conversation with Vivian. Sincere Clark, that old fuddy-duddy, doesn't know anything besides making money. I've already scammed hundreds of thousands out of his wife. Once I get in with Vivian's family, I'll have all the opportunities I need. Sincere Clark? He won't be worth a damn thing. Those vulgar words, those naked images were broadcast for all to see at the solemn graduation ceremony. The entire auditorium fell deathly silent. The students and faculty below stared at Makoto with a mixture of contempt and shock. He stood rigidly on stage, pale and trembling, feeling his legs about to give out. No, it's not like that, he mumbled, his mind starting to unravel. Sitting in the audience, Victoria clamped her hands over her mouth, tears instantly streaming down her face. She never dreamed that her most private, shameful moments would be exposed in front of so many people. But what terrified her even more was the second video that followed. It showed Makoto on a date with Vivian. What's so great about that old woman, Victoria? Makoto said dismissively. She's useless for anything other than getting money from, and she cries all the time, so annoying. Once I'm with you, I'm dumping her immediately. Victoria's face looked as if she'd been brutally slapped. Her last psychological defense crumbled. She let out a piercing scream, shot up from her seat, and rushed frantically toward the stage. Makoto Jones, you liar, you told me you loved me. Several security guards tried to stop her, but she fought like a madwoman. By this point, Makoto was completely unable to think, standing there like a statue as waves of curses and ridicule washed over him from all directions. I stood up and slowly walked to the microphone at the front of the stage. The entire hall instantly fell silent. All eyes were on me. Faculty, students, my apologies for interrupting today's graduation ceremony. My voice was calm but cold, carrying clearly to every corner of the auditorium. My name is Sincere Clark. I was Makoto Jones's former sponsor. I am also the man you're all talking about, the cuckolded husband. A wave of hushed gasps rippled through the audience. I am standing here today because I have one thing to say to a certain someone. I turned my head and looked at Makoto's pale, desperate face. The price of betrayal is far heavier than you can ever imagine. After saying this, I turned and left the stage. The guards forcibly removed the completely broken down Victoria and the still dazed Makoto from the scene. What should have been a joyous graduation ceremony was forced to an abrupt end. And for Makoto Jones and Victoria Hawthorne, this was only the true beginning of their long nightmare. Not long after the graduation ceremony, S University quickly issued an official statement expelling Makoto Jones and revoking all awards and honors he had received. His academic fraud scandal soon made headlines, and online forums exploded with discussions about academic integrity, condemning phony scholars like Makoto who cheated their way to the top. Meanwhile, although the explicit videos of him and Victoria were quickly removed from mainstream platforms, copies continued to circulate in private channels. Almost overnight, Makoto went from being a role model for students from humble backgrounds to a social pariah. Expelled from the university, he wouldn't receive a degree. All his internship and job offers were rescinded. He couldn't even go back to his dorm, unable to bear the contemptuous looks from his classmates. Victoria's situation was even more dire. The divorce was finalized and she was left with nothing. The $2 million settlement I had offered was revoked due to her part in the scandal revealed in the videos. She was forced to move out of our luxurious home and could only afford a small, dark room in a rundown neighborhood. All her old friends cut contact with her. In the dead of night she would try to call Makoto, but the line was always busy. A profound sense of despair enveloped her, slowly consuming her. As for Makoto, life was just as hard. Clinging to a final shred of hope, he went to find Vivian to beg for her help. But when she saw him, her face was a mask of undisguised scorn. "I hear you've been quite the celebrity online these past few days. Unfortunately, my family doesn't like to associate with the criminal element. But you promised me," Makoto whispered. Vivian's tone was icy. "Promised you what? I never promised you anything. That was all in your head. By the way, don't come looking for me again. I feel disgusted just being associated with someone like you." Makoto looked as if he'd been struck by lightning again, his face a terrifying shade of white. His last lifeline had been severed. A week later, I was in my office when Leo knocked and entered. "Mr. Clark, he's here." I nodded and put down my pen. A moment later, a gaunt, skeletal figure was brought in. It was Makoto Jones. He looked like his soul had been ripped out. His eyes were sunken and his face was devoid of color. The relentless blows of the past week had nearly crushed him. He saw me and froze, then dropped to his knees with a thud. "Mr. Clark, please, let me go," he sobbed, tears and snot running down his face. "I was wrong. I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have betrayed your trust. And I shouldn't have done those inhuman things. Please just give me one more chance." I looked at his pathetic state, my expression still glacial. "A chance? When you were shamelessly sleeping with my wife in my bed, did you think about giving me a chance? When you were smugly laughing behind my back, calling me an old fuddy-duddy, did you think about giving me a chance? When you were contentedly spending my money to woo another woman, did you ever think about giving me a chance?" Makoto shook his head in agony, his face a grotesque mess of tears and mucus. "Mr. Clark, I must have lost my mind. I've been punished. The university expelled me. I lost my job and I can't even go home now. My parents heard what happened and said I brought shame upon them. Please have mercy. Let me go this time." I looked at him and suddenly smiled, an unreadable expression on my face. "Let you go? Makoto, you seem to have misunderstood something. Did you really think what happened at the graduation ceremony was the full extent of your punishment?" He snapped his head up, his face a mask of incredulous terror. It wasn't? Of course not." I stood up and walked slowly to the floor-to-ceiling windows. That was just the beginning. I turned back to face him. "The real punishment starts now." I picked up a folder from my desk and threw it in front of him. "See for yourself." His hands trembled as he reached for it. He opened it, and after a single glance, the color drained completely from his face. Inside was a stack of clear photographs. His parents were standing in front of their dilapidated house, flanked by two grim-faced, menacing strangers. What are you doing?" His voice began to shake with extreme fear. My tone was flat, nothing much. "Just wanted to make you understand the price of choosing the wrong enemy." I picked up the phone on my desk and dialed a number. "Proceed," I said, just those 2 words before hanging up. Makoto screamed in terror. "Wait, what are you doing to my parents?" I looked at him, my expression as cold as ice. "When you betrayed me, did you ever think about how I felt? Now it's your turn to experience the pain of having your heart torn to shreds." Just then, my personal cell phone rang. I answered it, listened quietly for a few moments, and nodded. "Excellent." After hanging up, I looked at Makoto, who was now ashen-faced and limp with fear. "I have some unfortunate news for you. It seems there was a small problem with the gas line at your parents' house just now. They've been taken to the hospital. The initial diagnosis is gas poisoning. Their condition is unstable." A violent tremor racked Makoto's body. His spirit finally broke. "No, Mr. Clark, I'm begging you. Please spare my parents. They're innocent." "This has nothing to do with them." "Innocent?" I scoffed. "They raised a shameless, ungrateful son like you. What right do they have to claim innocence?" I looked into his eyes, which were filled with despair, and smiled cruelly. However, I could consider letting them go. Makoto's head shot up, a faint glimmer of hope in his eyes. "But," I continued, "it will require a price from you." "From me?" "That's right, from you." I picked up a glass of water from the desk and held it out to him. "This contains a lethal dose of sleeping pills. You drink this, and I will immediately call off all actions against your parents. Otherwise..." I gently shook the phone in my hand. All it takes is one more call and the oxygen tubes keeping them alive might just get accidentally unplugged. Makoto's eyes widened in disbelief. You can't be serious. My gaze was sharp. Do I look like I'm joking? He was silent for a long time, his body trembling violently with fear. Finally, with a shaky hand, he took the glass. Can I see Victoria one last time? What? My voice was laced with venom. Even now you're thinking of her. When you dumped her without a second thought for that Vivian girl, did you ever consider how she felt? Makoto bowed his head in agony, hot tears splashing onto the floor. I was truly wrong. Too late, I cut him off coldly. Drink. Or, I shook my phone again, a silent threat. He closed his eyes in despair, then threw his head back and down the water in one gulp. After he finished, he opened his eyes and looked at me with a complex expression. Now, will you let my parents go? I nodded. Rest assured, I, Sincere Clark, am a man of my word. His face grew visibly paler, and his body began to twitch uncontrollably. The drug was taking effect quickly. Just as his consciousness was about to fade, I leaned close to his ear and whispered in a voice only we could hear. That glass just contained ordinary sleeping pills. You're not going to die. When you wake up, you'll find yourself in a mental institution. You will live out the rest of your days there. Every single day, you will be forced to remember what happened today, to remember how your greed led you step by step into this inescapable abyss of your own making. His expression twisted into one of ultimate terror and complete despair. Then, his eyelids grew heavy and slowly closed. Leo entered promptly and motioned for 2 men to carry the unconscious Makoto out. Lakeview Asylum. Arrange for the best private room. And remember, without my permission, he is never to take a single step outside of that place. Leo nodded respectfully, asked no questions, and left. I walked back to the window, looking out at the glittering city. A meticulously planned revenge had finally come to an end. That same night, in the shabby apartment Victoria was renting, she huddled alone on a cold, hard single bed, her expression vacant. In the past few days, she had lost weight at an alarming rate, becoming a shadow of her former self. Her skin was sallow, her hair dry and brittle. There was no trace of the radiant woman she once was. After the divorce, she had nothing. Her former friends avoided her. Her parents in her hometown refused to see her, and she couldn't even find a job to support herself. What drove her to despair, the most, was that Makoto, the man she had risked everything for, had completely abandoned her. Her calls to him never went through. She struggled out of bed and staggered to the table, which was cluttered with empty liquor bottles. Beside them lay a stack of photos, our wedding photos. In the pictures, she was smiling sweetly, her face radiating happiness. She had once thought that was the beginning of a blissful life, never imagining she would be the one to destroy it all with her own hands. Suddenly the doorbell rang. She walked dazedly to the door and opened it. A stranger in a courier uniform stood outside holding a thick manila envelope. "Miss Victoria Hawthorne?" She nodded numbly. "A delivery for you." The man handed her the envelope and left quickly. Victoria went back inside and tore it open. A stack of photos and a short letter fell out. The photos showed an unconscious Makoto being carried onto an ambulance with what looked like a hospital in the background. The letter contained only a few typed lines. "Makoto Jones has been committed to a mental institution for life. This is the price for his betrayal. As for your punishment, it will come soon." There was no signature at the end, only a simple drawing in black ink, a wolf, poised to strike. Victoria's hand trembled violently, and the photos and letters scattered across the floor. She stumbled backward until her back hit the cold wall. A massive wave of fear washed over her, making it almost impossible to breathe. What was Sincere planning to do to her? Was he going to lock her in a mental institution like Makoto, or torture her in some even more terrifying way? The room started to spin. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Suddenly, as if remembering something, she pulled her phone from her pocket with a trembling hand and dialed a number she hadn't called in a long time. "Hello? Mom, help me, please, help me." There was a long silence on the other end before a cold, distant voice replied, "I don't have a daughter anymore. After you did something as shameless as betraying your husband and having an affair, you still have the nerve to call me for help? You've brought nothing but disgrace to our family. Mom, I know I was wrong. I really do, please. Save me, Sincere. He's going to Sincere Clark? Her mother shouted. He was a wonderful son-in-law, someone our family could only dream of being connected to. You were the one who threw it all away. Who can you blame for your situation now? Your father and I have decided we're done with you. You made your bed, now lie in it. The line went dead. Victoria slumped to the cold floor, her last sliver of hope extinguished. She was completely broken. Despair washed over her like a tidal wave. She shakily got to her feet and walked step by step to the balcony. She stared blankly at the bustling, brightly lit world below. It was all over. No one was coming to save her. No one would even remember her. She slowly climbed onto the balcony railing and closed her eyes. A night breeze swept by, and her silhouette vanished into the darkness. The next morning, Leo rushed into my office, his face grim. "Mr. Clark, Victoria, she committed suicide last night, jumped from her building." I looked up from my documents, my face impassive. "When?" "Around 10 last night." The security camera below her building captured it. "The body has been sent to the morgue. The police have ruled it a suicide." I nodded slightly and went back to my work, as if I'd just heard a piece of trivial news. Leo stood there, wanting to say something, but hesitating. I looked up. "Is there anything else? Is that all?" Leo asked cautiously. I looked at him calmly. "What did you expect? For me to cry for her, to feel regret?" Leo quickly lowered his head. "For her, death was perhaps a release," I said in a tone that was almost clinical. I closed the folder and looked out at the bright sunlight. If I had to say what I'm feeling right now, it might be a slight regret. Regret? Yes, regret. She died too easily. I had planned for her to witness, step by step, how she would be utterly abandoned by this world. I wanted her to endure, day after day, for the rest of her long, desperate life, the same pain of betrayal and abandonment that I once felt. Leo seemed to understand. He quietly exited the office. I picked up the phone on my desk and dialed a number. "Hello, is this Lakeview Asylum? I'd like an update on the patient in private room 16. The detached, professional voice of a nurse came through the line. "The patient's emotional state is extremely unstable, alternating between manic episodes and catatonia. Last night he began screaming incoherently, rambling that someone was trying to kill him. We had to increase his sedative dosage to calm him down." "Very good," I said softly. "Continue to monitor him closely. Maintain the current treatment plan." After hanging up, I slowly walked to the massive floor-to-ceiling window. The sun was bright outside, and the city carried on as if nothing had happened. But I knew that from this day forward, everything had changed completely. A month later, after a great deal of effort, Makoto's parents finally found out where their son was. They rushed to Lakeview Asylum, but they were told that without my permission, no one was allowed to visit the patient in room 16. The pitiful old couple knelt desperately at the hospital gates, crying and begging to see their son. I happened to drive by, saw them through the car window, and drove away without a change in expression. I felt not a shred of pity, not a moment of hesitation. In this world, nothing is more unforgivable than betrayal. Victoria's funeral was a bleak affair. Almost no one came. Her parents were there, their eyes red and swollen, but their faces showed little grief. Perhaps in their hearts the daughter who had shamed them had died long ago. The body they were burying was just an empty shell. I didn't attend personally. I merely sent a bouquet of white chrysanthemums with a small card attached. It read in short, simple script, "This is the price of betrayal." The simple sentence was enough to send a chill down the spine of everyone present. 3 months later, in private room 16 of Lakeview Asylum, Makoto was securely confined. He grew thinner and thinner until he was just a skeleton. Every day at a set time, an orderly would play a special video for him. It was the security footage of Victoria jumping from the balcony, followed by gruesome photos of her bloodied body on the ground, and finally, the entire process of her being prepared at the morgue and buried. At first, seeing these images would make Makoto weep hysterically, his emotions spiraling out of control. Then, gradually, he became numb, staring blankly at the screen like a mindless puppet. After that, he seemed to lose his grip on reality and began to dip his fingers in his own blood to write the same sentence over and over on the white walls. "I'm sorry. I am guilty." Again and again, tirelessly, until the entire wall was covered in those shocking dark red words. His psychiatrist diagnosed him with severe schizophrenia and post-traumatic stress disorder, concluding that he would likely never recover and could never return to normal society. The orderly sent me detailed observation reports every week, documenting Makoto's every word and action. I would read them with cold indifference, feeling no pity. This was the price he had to pay for betraying me. 6 months later, I received official confirmation that both of Makoto's parents had passed away from illness. It was said that on their deathbeds, they had begged the hospital to let them see their son one last time, a request I had mercilessly denied. They died with endless regret and resentment, unable to rest in peace. I had the news anonymously relayed to Makoto in the asylum. That night, upon learning of his parents' deaths, his mind finally shattered completely. He tried to hang himself with a bedsheet but was discovered by a night orderly and saved in time. After that, he fell completely silent. He stopped speaking and refused to eat, kept alive only by a daily IV drip. His eyes, once filled with ambition, were now vacant, devoid of any spark of life. The doctors said he had lost all will to live. Though he was breathing, he was, for all intents and purposes, a walking corpse. I listened to Leo's report, my face still a blank mask. This was the final result I wanted. To let him live, but in a state more painful than death. To have him endure endless torment and regret, moment by moment, with no hope of release. This was the most thorough and perfect punishment for a betrayer. I stood alone on the terrace of my newly built penthouse, a glass of red wine in hand, looking down at the city lights. I heard light footsteps behind me. "What are you thinking about now?" Vivian Sterling walked to my side, handing me a freshly decanted glass of wine. After the revenge plan concluded, she had chosen to stay, and with her talent, she had become the marketing director of my company. Unwittingly, she had also become one of the few people in my life with whom I could share my thoughts. "Nothing," I said, taking a sip from the glass. "Just sometimes, I wonder if it was all worth it." Vivian was quiet for a moment before asking softly, "Do you regret it?" I shook my head. "I don't regret it. I just feel empty. After putting so much effort into doing everything I wanted to do, I found that the wound in my heart is still there, still aching. It seems this is a pain that revenge can't completely fill." Vivian stepped closer to me, her eyes on mine. "Time is the best medicine. It will get better. Some things can't be solved by revenge. Perhaps what's more important is to let go of the past and start a new life." I turned to look at her, a flicker of warmth touching my heart for the first time in a long while. "Perhaps,"